I'd like to show you the final game in the Chess 960 match between Veselin Topalov and Garry Kasparov. If you want to see what happened earlier in the day, then do check out the video up there. You can click on the link. But anyway, Garry did not have the best start. Anyway, here is the final game, which was really entertaining. Now we've got another position of pieces on the baseline, and also very, very different from the normal starting position. Queen and rook here, well, we had that before, but basically every single piece in a different position, so it's really very, very unusual. Topalov opened with e4. Now the problem, as in normal game of chess with a normal starting position, is that e-pawn is unprotected, so that after this move b6, this already brings the bishop into play. So I would actually question that first move incredibly, but I definitely don't like Topalov's second move here. I think he should bring a knight into play and protect the pawn here. He played f3, and I don't like that because it blocks this bishop, but also opens this diagonal here. Well, again, in normal chess, it's also frowned upon to advance the f-pawn, opening up the diagonal here. And Garry immediately puts his finger on the problem by playing e5, opening the bishop's diagonal. b3, opening the diagonal here. And knight g6. Okay, brings that into play. And now Topalov opens up the position with d4. Again, was this wise? It opens more diagonals, and that king, well, it's a little bit drafty already actually. Let's see how Garry exploits that. He gave a check on h4. Now white could simply block with the knight, that's possible, but instead g3 played by Topi. And the problem is it weakens the squares here. Bishop came back, so it can pop out on this diagonal somewhere as well. And now f5, supported by the rook, and immediately putting pressure on the diagonal, on the center. This was exchanged. So it's pressure here and f4. Well, that allows this bishop into the game. But Kasparov takes the initiative with c5. This is a good move. Bishop drops. And here, well, Garry simply brings his knight into play onto d6, which looks very natural, just developing. It might have been even better if he'd thrown in c4 first. One point is that it brings potentially this bishop into play on this diagonal. And after pawn takes pawn, then knight d6. And this is obviously very strong indeed. Once the knight hits c4, attacks all kinds of weak squares in White's position. And if knight e5, then bishop b4 check is a very uncomfortable check. And I think we can see very clearly how these early pawn moves, the early move of the f-pawn, the early move of the d-pawn, have actually left White's king in some trouble here. So coming back here, I think that was a missed opportunity, but listen, this is a blitz game. I shouldn't even be analysing in any depth. I'm just trying to sketch things out. But anyway, knight d6, also a very good move. Bishop g4 played. And here's a very interesting moment. Of course, this rook can just retreat, but Gary senses that his opponent's king is in some trouble in the middle of the board, and he gives a check. So white can no longer castle after this move. The king moves to d1, so it's stuck in the middle. It also means that black is dropping an exchange. That rook is lost, but Gary is now in his element. He castled. So watch this, folks. The king and rook are about to switch over. There we go. So Toppy attacked the king, attacked the queen. Gary moved the queen, and well, he could take straight away, but first he played the knight to f2. But Gary was still in no mood to save the rook. He just wanted to continue with his attack, and really, he's in his element now. I mean, I think we forget when we see lots of his later games or games against Karpov where he turned into quite a technical player, a very mature player. But of course, we know that Garry Kasparov has an incredible instinct for the initiative. c4. So he's just ditched the rook here. And in practice, I think this is a very, very difficult position for white because the king's in the middle. His pieces, notably the rooks, are not well coordinated. They're not in harmony. Split rooks, it's a problem. Whereas black's forces are very well coordinated. Objectively, well, if you feed this into your computer, it thinks that white is still okay, but in a blitz game, this is extremely difficult when your opponent has the initiative. And I like the way that Gary plays. I think it's really excellent. This is, just in practical terms, very hard to defend against. So for example, here, bishop takes g7 is the computer's recommendation, and it thinks that white is better, but really, somehow black's pieces look so wonderful in this position that actually, I think, very difficult to defend in practice. So Veselin played a very human move, which is to try to exchange pieces. When your opponent has the initiative, you want to exchange. But this led to difficulties after this exchange, and then knight f3. Now that's a very uncomfortable move for white to face. This queen is shut out suddenly, the rook is attacked, and here is the big move. We've got queen f1, which will lead to mate. That's the problem. So knight d3 had to be played. So Gary got back some material, and now, well, he's still very well coordinated. You can see all of black's pieces. Beautifully placed. That bishop in the corner, lurking in the corner, playing such an important role in this game, controlling really important squares. And, well, the king and rook, and white's king and rook are the wrong way round. White is utterly lost in this position, and Gary, well, he romped home here. So what's the score now? It's pawn up for black, and the initiative continues. He just needs to hold things together. Maintain coordination. Queen d5, that's a very practical move from Gary. He understands very well that in an endgame with rook and bishop against rook and knight, where white has split pawns, then this is fairly technical, a simple technical task. Toppy avoids it, the exchange, but black is still in complete control in this position. And here Kasparov took a second pawn, and Topalov had seen enough. He resigned in this position. So Gary finished the match with 2 wins. He lost by 14.5, 11.5. It was the rapid play games counted for 2 points, but I think Vasilij Topalov won the match deservedly. He was somehow more consistent than Gary, but still, I think that was a very fine game to finish for Gary Kasparov, and it just shows his wonderful instinct for the initiative, for the attack. So at least he could console himself. He played a nice game, and in fact he named this game as his favourite game. There we go. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my coverage of this Chess 960 match. I found it very, very interesting. It's very, very fresh positions, and that's in itself is great. So would you like to see more Chess 960 tournaments? That's the question. And would you like to see more of Gary Kasparov playing? It's curious how he sort of dips in and out. You know, is he retired or isn't he? He says he's retired, but then he plays more chess. You know, let's clear up the confusion. I don't think we're really going to see more, but well, anyway, you tell me what you think. If you want to check out another video, then as mentioned, do check out video I recorded with earlier games in the match on day 4, and also Nakamura against Svidler. Check out the link above. Thanks for watching.